Welcome, and today we're going to talk about science and how I'm always right. So just remember that. AJ, take us away.
So a new study published in the Public Library of Science is shedding light on why people often stand firm in their beliefs during debates. The reason? They think they have all the facts, even when they don't. The study authors are calling this the illusion of information adequacy, which was demonstrated in an experiment where participants were split into three groups. Two groups were given opposite but incomplete facts about a fictional school merger, and the third group was given all the facts. So despite the incomplete information, the two groups with half the facts believed that they had enough information to make an informed decision. However, when presented with the full picture, their opinion shifted to match that of the group that had all the facts. This is good news. It showed that people are more open to changing their minds than expected. And the study authors say that being more curious about other people's perspectives can lead to deeper, more honest conversations about serious issues. So curiosity may have killed the cat, but perhaps it won't be what kills humans. This story is from Fortune by Annie Friedman on October 9, 2024.
Thanks, AJ. And I have to say that you're more hopeful than I am, and I would expect that. One thing for me is I recall that my dad used to very sarcastically say, "Don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up," when he was talking to people who just refused and ignored the obvious. And it did come to mind almost at the onset of this article. And I was hopeful like you, AJ, that it showed that people were willing to change their mind. But being a little more dubious, I feel that in a controlled environment, it's one thing, but telling somebody who's taking survey questions and answers, but in a real world environment, how do you think this would play out with people talking about things where they are in their own echo chamber? What do you think? You think this would be likely effective for them too?
One of the study leaders, Fletcher, he noted that he thinks that the most common disagreements stem from just simple misunderstandings, like your partner doing the laundry wrong or putting the toilet paper under instead of over. And he said that being able to employ curiosity during those very small conflicts will help you during bigger, more difficult conversations. And, that this would put you in a better position to have a real discussion about substantive disagreements, which are often political in nature. So I completely agree with this. I think that being able to look at someone else's perspective before making a harsh remark or, thinking that they're doing something to be malicious could solve a lot of the issues that cause unnecessary stress and anxiety for the average person and within their close relationships and friendships. It may seem like a small skill to master, but it's all about changing the brain that our brain reacts to things. And when we begin to react more curiously about small issues, wanting to learn more, that's when we start to do the same with other issues, like even the big ones, like political disagreements, religious beliefs, or stances on social justice, or professional settings at work, and things that are, a big deal and not just on a personal level.
Right. Kara, I was wondering about you. Do you think that people, because there are some people who just dismiss science entirely. They will say that, God created the world in 6,000 years, or the earth's flat, or, the Shroud of Turin should convince all of us to go to church tomorrow. What do you think about these kinds of people? Do you think that this could be something useful to reaching out to people like them too? Or how do you think about that?
I do. I think it is important to note that on some of those points that you made, there may be people who are dug in on certain issues and they are committed to their positions on those issues, not because of any kind of information that they have received that supports those things, but because of some other motivation, such as they need to continue to believe those things in order to prop up a worldview that they feel they would be endangering their soul if they did not continue to believe in, or, various other kinds of motivations. They don't have to be religious ones. So yes, I think there are occasions where perhaps no amount of curiosity or kind and compassionate and empathetic communication may change someone's mind right there on the spot. But I think that the nature of the interaction does matter. And I think this article fits into the larger conversation that we've been seeing lately about this concept of the backfire effect, which is kind of a sort of popular term that we use to describe this proposed effect that may occur, which says that when people are presented with information that contradicts the belief that they currently hold, they're actually more likely to dig their heels in than to change their minds. And we kind of took that as the truth for some time. But recently, we've been seeing more questions being raised about whether it may be a little bit more complicated than that. And it's not always the case that people dig their heels in when they're presented with contradictory information. People do sometimes change their mind. I know I have before. I know we probably all have here. We can probably think of an example of a time that we changed our mind when we were presented with contradictory evidence. And in a lot of cases, I think if we consider why we changed our mind in the face of that evidence, it may have to do with factors such as how that information was delivered. Was it coming from someone that you genuinely believed was interested in you and your well-being and did not have nefarious intent? Was it delivered in a way that was compassionate and empathetic, or was it delivered in a way that was rude and insulting and accusatory? These may be factors that are more important when deciding whether someone is going to change their mind or not. So I do agree with the gist of this article when it's suggesting that people exhibit some curiosity before they just jump in and start assuming that other people have bad intent or that we need to just dig in our heels.
But it seems that it's also a case of the less someone knows, the more confident they feel about it. And this reminded me of the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a concept that was actually coined by two psychologists in the 90s. And they noticed that people with limited knowledge or skill in a specific area who thought that they knew enough, they usually overestimated their abilities in thinking that they knew more or better than most people based on this small amount of information that they knew about a specific topic, right? Because they had, read an article or a news about a news headline. And then suddenly they thought that they knew the entire situation. And on the opposite end, you also have people who are extremely skilled. For example, like a highly trained scientist or an engineer, and they may believe that they don't know enough about their own field or their topic and that their peers are more knowledgeable. So they underestimate their abilities. And the positive side of this is that when people doubt themselves or their knowledge, they're more likely to seek further information and answers. But, the Dunning-Kruger effect explains that why some people are more likely to fall for things like conspiracy theories. They think that they know enough about science or history, but they have no idea. And it seems that we are all prone to being on either side of the Dunning-Kruger effect. But I think the solution is to be more self-aware and to admit when you know enough or when you don't know enough, and to also realize that you're more than likely are never going to know everything and that there's always something new to learn. That's my personal motto. Like, I don't know shit. Tell me more.
Well, I was going to ask you about the Dunning-Kruger effect, but I think you gave a pretty good explanation of that. And look, I get it. I know that all you other people are wrong sometimes, but seriously, I hate being wrong. I will not deny. I absolutely hate it, but I hate it enough because there's one thing I hate more. I hate staying wrong even more. And so I think that with that in mind, you mentioned all of us changing our minds. Well, as a former believer who worked for a former Klansman, who was a delegate to a party that should not be named a long time ago, decades ago. Yeah, I've changed a few of my views on a few things. So I think it serves as a good reminder for all of us to be reminded that we've been wrong about things too. It's just sometimes it seems so hard thinking that the other people, because once again, that's our otherness mentality that we like to portray. And it's good to be reminded that we fit in that category too, to make sure that we don't fall prey, because sometimes we are. but it's being aware of it and having that self-awareness. It's so important. So, Kara, I was going to switch over to you. How did you think? What do you think about I was going to kind of carry off on the Dunning-Kruger effect. Do you think that that's something you see on a regular basis? Is that something that you see, and do you have a particular methodology on dealing with it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I do see that quite often, and we sometimes say, I even catch myself doing it sometimes and saying, oh, I probably know just enough about this to be dangerous. And that's kind of what that is. And, to the point that was made earlier, yeah, we never have all the facts. Our information is always incomplete. And we do have to still go about our lives and make decisions constantly throughout the day, many, many times a day in the face of incomplete and inadequate information. So yeah, we probably are kind of primed to do that. If we couldn't ever make a decision or come to a conclusion in the absence of all of the facts, we'd all be paralyzed with indecision for probably all of our lives. So, I think it's okay to give people a little bit of a pass sometimes, but it's exactly that attitude that was mentioned earlier of assuming not just that you know enough to have an opinion or come to a conclusion, but assuming that you are in possession of all of the facts and there's nothing more to be learned. That's when okay, that's not accurate. That's never going to be accurate. You're never in possession of all of the facts. It always pays to find out more. It may be challenging. It may lead to you having to reconsider a belief that you kind of didn't want to have to reconsider. And it may lead to, for some people, dealing with nuance or gray areas is unsettling and difficult. And it may lead you to a place where you realize, I don't know enough information about this topic to actually have a solid opinion. It could be this on the one hand, it could be that on the other hand, and we don't really have a good way to make a decision sometimes. And I think that can be very uncomfortable for people, but sometimes that's just the reality, and it helps to just be a little bit more comfortable with nuance if you can, and be ready to acknowledge that we don't have to have all of the answers all the time. Like we say quite often, it's perfectly okay to say, I don't know. And I think we should do that more often. I know I should do that more often. And I'm the person who goes around saying that all the time. I should put that into practice more. So yeah, I think that is basically my opinion on that. I don't know for sure.
I have to say that I don't know is probably consistently the most honest answer you'll get from somebody, because rarely does anyone say, I don't know, when they really think they know the answer, unless they think it's a trap. So excluding that. Now, one thing, AJ, I know this article's about science, but you know me, so eventually it's going to also end up about politics. Do you think that there's an actual move to make science more dismissed? Is that something that we see in leadership in some places, wanting science to be something that people don't learn much of so that they can be taken advantage of in being fed an easy story?
You can absolutely see this both in politics and in religion. I have to say that, and equally, because we saw it in 2016. I was actually involved in the March for Science, which was because of all the anti-science moves that were being made by unnamed politicians at the time. And so we wanted to help educate people on all topics, medical science and all issues of the environment. And when it comes to the other side, to religion, then you have all of these incredibly inaccurate things being taught to children from the Bible. So they learn all these different facts that are equally scientific and anti-scientific, and they value them at the same level. Like, I don't know, like you need water to survive, and then Jesus welcomed water, right? So kids grow up learning that type of science and thinking, oh, it's all true. And so I think that, ultimately we need to do better at teaching everybody how to understand science.
I think that that's part of what we see when we see this move to get the Bible in the classrooms, and they say every classroom. They want to mix up that science belief with the Jesus magic, water in the wine or whatever else, and it creates a gullibility factor that I do think is dangerous and goes definitely to the heart of making it easy for people to believe they know all the facts. Now, Kara, I just wonder, is there anything you wanted to close out with?
I don't think so, because I don't want to have the final word on this matter, because I want to stay open and stay curious, and I don't think I have all the facts yet, but I was enjoying the conversation, and I hope that we get to have more.
Well, that's good, because I didn't really want you to have it anyway. So AJ, you?
Then I will have the last word. I will say that speaking of curiosity, epistemology, critical thinking, skepticism, these are all factors and skills that we need to learn, and that can lead us to having more honest and unbiased conversations that result in less misunderstandings, disagreements, and that we can help to further our society.
I have to say that I'm hopeful that Lucifer here gave us good advice, but after all, should we take Lucifer's word? I think so. I don't know about you, but what I do know is that you are absolutely to listen to another episode of The Nonprofits. So what you should do is click down below.